Well, I'm Russ Comstock, and I'm sitting here with my friend, the Honorable Judge Christopher Bieter, Magistrate Ada County, and it's my distinct honor to interview a little bit about an upcoming award that I understand you're going to get, the Distinguished Jurist. And Chris, I just have to say, I've known you professionally for a couple of decades, and I just cannot think of anyone more deserving of this award who hasn't already got it.
You're too kind.
No, Chris, tell me what got you started as a magistrate and what drew you to that career?
Well, Russ, between my second and third years of law school, a federal judge, Ray McNichols, used to hire a student between those 2 years to take a year out and work. And I was super fortunate because he wasn't sure he was going to continue working. He had some heart surgery and wasn't sure he was going to stay on the bench. And I thought, well, I'm going to try and apply anyway. And I think I was the only one that applied. But I'd had a bad second year, needed kind of a boost to see if this legal world was for me, and lucked into that position and really changed my whole outlook on the law. And watching a great judge work a trial and prepare for a trial, that, you know, someday it might be something that I could be suited to.
What were you doing before that?
I was in a small office, husband and wife, little practice for, from when I left Judge McNichols, I went right to work with them doing everything. You know, they did a lot of family law, which was not really an interest of mine, but we did everything. I did criminal work, I did adoptions, I did immigration work, I did general civil things, and just a great variety of helping regular folks out with problems, and just a delightful time working with them.
So when we're talking about the Guardianship Committee, we're talking about the Guardianship Committee that's a subcommittee, well, a committee formed by the Supreme Court. And you're kind of a policy making or advising, not making,
Exactly.
but you advise the Supreme Court on policy regarding probate and conservatorships and that kind of thing. And so you chaired that committee from about what year?
I want to say maybe 2010, maybe earlier. But
been that long, and you're still the chair of the committee,
I'm still
right?
the chair. Yeah.
Okay. What contributions do you think that committee, under your leadership, has made to this area of law that has been most meaningful for you?
Russ, there's about half a dozen things that I think are significant that we can really take some pride in. I think the number one thing is we have a coordinator in all of the judicial districts to review all of the reports of any person that's under a guardianship, and to troubleshoot and answer questions that the public has, put on programs to educate people about how to do this. And it's just been a terrific thing. Somehow we convinced the legislature. We had a pilot program that was super successful. We put it into the Supreme Court agreed to put it into the court budget, thinking that, you know, they wouldn't allow that because it's a significant thing of a salary and benefits for the coordinator in 7 districts. But they passed it, and it's been the greatest thing, because then we have somebody looking at the human beings in every district who need this help.
Is there anything else about that committee that you chaired, that the work it's done, that you're most proud of?
We have a training program that every person who's applied to be a guardian or a conservator has to take, an online training. We won't schedule a hearing for them unless they've completed it. And I think that's resulted in better prepared guardians for everybody, children and adults.
Your family so important to you. What role have they played in helping you throughout your career?
My wife, Netta, would say that she played the role in making me a judge. She encouraged me. She I think knows, well, she knows my personality and what I'm suited to, and as difficult as it is sometimes to decide cases, I don't think it's as hard on you personally as being an advocate, worrying about the result of a case for a client, both the personal effect on them and the financial effect it might have. So she realized that I was a crummy biller. You know, I just wasn't good at asking people for dough, and I think she appreciated having a regular source of income that didn't depend on my being tough and collecting.
What's some of the most memorable cases or entertaining cases you've had that you can talk about?
The world may already know this story, but it still gives me a grin. We were doing these debtors examinations, which are routine. You swear the parties in, and they usually go to a different conference room and have a talk to see what this debtor, what they own, where they bank, and what their jobs are. I called a name. It was an Arabic-sounding name. A woman stands up, says, "That's my husband. He speaks Arabic and he's deaf." And we were trying to encourage the use of certified interpreters over family members. And so I said, we probably have to reschedule this and get a certified interpreter. But everybody was there. It's a simple, non-adversarial deal. It's just essentially a meeting. So I said, all right, if you can do this, let's just do it while everybody's here. And so I go carefully. Will you swear to faithfully translate from Arabic to sign language or whatever you have to do? Yes, yes. So we began the explanation of the process, and I said to the gentleman for her to translate, "Now, this lawyer wants to ask you some questions." And honest to God, she turned to her husband and said, "He wants to ask you some questions." I didn't keep a poker face at all on the bench. I just cracked up and thought, my Arabic, I'm ready. I've got the Arabic.
It's a touching case, wasn't there, that you just had not too long ago about a will left by a father and inspired a song you wrote. Why don't you just briefly tell what that story is?
Another handwritten one-page will. They bring the originals to me and you read them over and look at the petition. And the will said, "When my time comes, what's mine goes to my son. You're the best I could have hoped for." That was word for word what the will, it had his name and his son's name. But I was choked up in the office reading this wonderful thing. That would have happened anyway with the loss of intestate succession, but it certainly wouldn't have touched me like that. To see, here's a father contemplating his death. I don't know how, can't remember how long after he had written the will that he had died. It was obviously sometime though, and to be thinking of his son in that term was just a touching, wonderful thing, and kind of inspired a
song I've heard.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, many of us know you're a distinguished jurist, but what other distinguishing talents do you have?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Well, if I was being interviewed, I'd probably say a few things. You're a killer bass player.
Well, that was one of the great results of the COVID deal. My father was an amateur bass player and had a beautiful double bass that I inherited, and vowed I would learn it, and had it sit and didn't even open it. It's been over 20 years since Dad died, and I said, this is the time to do it. YouTube has tutorials. We got it restrung and fixed and a new case built for it. We have an occasional get-together of colleagues who love to play. So I think that devotion to music outside, something outside of the law, is just a gratifying thing.
It's fun to watch you play that bass because you have a picture of your father playing that bass in your chambers, so it's really cool.
You feel his bones, that you feel his vibrations in it. It's so cool.
Chris,
Yeah.
I guess I'll kind of wind this up by just saying your demeanor, your respect for litigants and lawyers, your smarts, your leadership, I think from where I sit, this is a well-deserved award. So I just am very proud of you. Your parents
Thank
would be
you,
very
dude.
proud of you. Your family, I'm sure, is. I'm going to end the interview with just one last question. It's always been on my mind, and I'm going to take this opportunity to ask it. But for all those years, what was it like to be the mayor's brother?